The resilience is that getting it wrong and getting it right again, right? Like that 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. It's like, how do we scaffold? So, like, the first time they're on the phone, you're helping them with the script, and then you're just reminding them so that they can scaffold with that script. It's like the idea that what the subset of things that I have, but you need to know that all problems can be solved. And if it doesn't solve the first time, let's think about another way creatively that we can use the things that we have to solve it, right? Like, how can we keep doing that? How can we keep doing that? So that level of repetition that I do in a lot of my shows, I use it in different ways, but similar story, right? Like, still using things, still thinking critically about stuff. I feel like today we need that resilience, and we need that more than ever.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Mom Essentials. Mamas, I'm guessing that Blue's Clues, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and Super Y have been on your TV, maybe even on repeat. But have you ever stopped to think about who's behind all of that? Well, today you're going to meet her, and her name is Angela Santomero. And she is the mind behind those shows and a whole lineup of others that have shaped how a generation of kids learn, feel, and calm themselves down. She's a Peabody and two-time Emmy Award with a master's in child development from Columbia, and she has built her career on one radical idea, that what our kids watch can actually teach them how to handle big feelings, not just keep them busy. So today, Angela and I are going to get into how to use imagination at home to help your children work through fear and worry, the parenting lessons hidden inside shows like Blue Clues and Daniel's Tiger that you can use tonight, how to choose books and stories that actually grow your child's heart instead of just filling the time, and simple ways to raise kind, creative, resilient kids, even when the world honestly feels like a lot. So, Angela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love a fellow Angela.
Yes, I know this is exciting. So I am just so honored that you are on today because you have obviously done so many amazing things in your career. And of course, I mean, I remember Blue's Clues from when I was younger, and I know that so many parents have it on their TV at all times. So I can't wait to get into not just like your passion behind that, but again, what we can take away from these shows that our kids are learning, but what we can learn as parents too. So why don't we just start with you sharing a little bit more? How did you get into all of this, and why are you so passionate about developing shows like this?
So I come from a family of teachers, and I started a psychology major and was interested in educating kids. And I just kept thinking, like, what if I could educate millions of them at the same time? Like, how could I use a preschool curriculum in a way that inspires kids the way that Mr. Rogers inspired me? I was like an avid Mr. Rogers fan. And so I started to do some research and really dig in. And so because of that, I had gotten the opportunity to work within Nickelodeon and then develop a game show for them, which was and is Blue's Clues. That's how
That
it
is
started.
That is amazing. I love it. And like, again, we can only do like so much in our home, right? With our own parenting and our own children. But the fact that you're like, okay, how can I have the biggest impact on the most amount of kids? Like, that's absolutely amazing. And I love how you took, yeah, just your family history of being teachers and your education, and you tied it into something that's super relatable, right? Because I think there's, as parents, we get shamed if we have our kids on devices, or we feel like people are judging us, or I feel like every parent starts out with like, I will never let my kids watch TV until they're this age. And that's just how it's going to be. And then they become parents and they're like, I need 5 minutes of sanity. Like, here's your tablet, watch Blue's Clues. But they're not just, again, like we said, being entertained. What are some of the things that children are really learning from these shows that you've developed?
Yeah, I wrote a book called Preschool Clues also to say, like, stop with the mom guilt. Like, there is high quality media out there with people like me who have a background and do research and really have a vision to educate through the screens versus using it as a negative. So the idea that there are longitudinal studies and summative research that actually says that kids are learning from media. They're always thinking, they're always learning, right? Like, we just don't know what they're learning from everything all the time.
Yeah.
But we are intentional about the work, and you can see it. You can see the levels of, I call it the 7-layer cake or the green smoothie, which is the idea that you're filling it. So you're filling it with nutrition in the green smoothie, but it has to taste good, right? Like, I don't care how many green, beautiful, healthy vegetables you put in there. If it doesn't taste good, the kids won't drink it. And it's the same thing with the cake. It's like we have so many layers and so many things that we want to do when we're creating a show for kids. But at the end of the day, I remind our team that like it has to taste good, right? Like we need
Yeah.
to know that there's an enjoyment and that kids really want to play with us. And that interactivity that we do from the beginning, from Blue's Clues all the way to the shows that I do now, is so that they're participating and learning, right? So that they're practicing the skills because of that back and forth.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I would love to just chat for a minute here about your preschool clues that you just said about mom guilt and share a little bit more about that with the listeners.
I get the question all the time, like, should I be letting my kid watch TV? Right. And if so, how much, how long, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, please, like, let it go because we have so much guilt as parents that that can't be another one. Right. So it's content. It's kind of like, and I kept saying it's a healthy media diet in the same way that you wouldn't feed your kids sugar all the time, right? You want a diversity of ingredients for your kids. You want to find out what they like and then create something out of that, right? When we're cooking. So it's the same thing with media. It's like thinking about what they like and then doing a little bit of like understanding of how this is affecting them, right? Does it entice them to play in the term, like pretend play and use their imagination? Does it invite them to talk back? Does it invite them to view and do? We like to say, like, I want the screen time to then inspire them to go write their own ending to a story or go play outside, something that's interesting and inspiring and curious, in addition to the scaffold, like for me. And then I go through the scaffolding of the educational pieces and aspects of the curriculum that I put in the shows. In a way that makes sense that we can do every day. So yeah, so that's what's in that book. That's like been the book I think that most people who are creating shows are using, to think about how to put empowering and educational messages into shows that then hopefully become a hit, right? So that we want
Yeah.
kids.
Absolutely. And I love, it's so relatable to be like, if you want to give your kids a healthy smoothie, yeah, you're right. Like it has to taste good. Otherwise, they're going to take a sip and be like, what are you doing? Why would you ever give this to me? We need to make it, good for the kids. And that goes into any sort of education too, because they don't really want to be talked to at that age with their development, but they want to be entertained and be able to learn and use their imagination and their curiosity and be able to interact with the show at some level. And so I love how you've really come up with a formula, not just to have you use it, but other people who are also developing other programs now too. So let's be honest though, like those shows, they can be on repeat, like I said, all of the time. And parents might be thinking this is only for my kids and maybe they're learning something here or there, but what can the parents actually learn from the shows that you've created?
So that was my other book, which is called Life Clues, which is the idea that parents can also learn from kids' TV. And
Yeah.
that's because in our shows, what we try to do is that interactivity, that pausing. Like, cannot tell you how many times I hear from parents like, oh my gosh, Steve or Joe or Josh reminded me to take 4 seconds before I answer the question for my child. Or to really take a second to step back and let them try and fail and try again and be resilient. Or how do I say to my kid that sharing is good? Like, how do I say it to make them want to share? And in Daniel Tiger, we'll have a strategy that says, I'll give you a turn, but then I get it back. Because that's what's so
Mm,
important. The littles, right? It's like,
yeah.
I know it's mine and I want you to know it's mine, but I will share it. So it's like there are ways that we have done the research so you don't have to look at some of those kinds of little sticky strategies so that you can use them. And so we've heard about that. We've heard about reading with Super Y and reading fractured fairy tales. So they'll watch an episode and then they'll go read different versions of it to spark conversation and asking why, which was the Super Y,
Yeah.
underscore. activation. So, like, those are the kinds of things that I think parents are getting ideas as well, and we make sure, at least we hope, that the music and all of it is actually enjoyable to parents, right? We might not tell a joke that's just for a parent where a kid is excluded, but we also don't alienate parents in any way, at least hopefully. I like to call it cuddle TV. Like, I want it to feel almost like when you're reading a book, that if you
Mm.
have the time, that it's okay. You're okay to watch it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you're helping parents with the pause because I feel like even in my work, that's what I hear from parents all the time. They're like, "This sounds great, like your calm approach, amazing. Like I can see how I can add some of this stuff in." But when it comes to that pause and to staying calm in the moment, I go from 0 to 60. Like the pause just doesn't work for me. And I always have to remind parents that, it's taken us a lot of little steps to where we are, and it's going to take us a lot of little steps to get us to where we want to be. So we can start with 1 second and hopefully build from there. But I think, even hearing it in the stuff that our kids are watching and listening to, like again, if we have that time where we can engage with them in the shows, that's going to help build up better communication, better connection with our children. And obviously, we can take stuff away from those shows as well, because I think at any age, we can still, enjoy cartoons and TV shows that our kids watch. Because I know when my kids were little, all the shows were on all of the time. And, it was always kind of fun to watch it with them so that I could see what they're engaging in.
And then you can use it as a tool, right? It's like, well, what would Daniel do? Daniel would try a new food. It might taste good. You know what I mean? Like you can use it to like help. And I also have an episode where Mom Tiger gets really frustrated as well. And we see her use the mad strategy of like, when I feel so mad, I want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. So I've heard parents tell me, like, oh, thank you for telling me that I need to do that too. Anyway, please.
Yeah. No, that's such a good add in there because you're right. Like we as parents, I talk so much about moms, and I'm so glad that you really kind of have used some of your work too to talk about that mom guilt that we already touched on because it's just rampant in today's society. I feel like because we get shut on a lot, and you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and I feel like as soon as you tell someone that you're pregnant, they're like, "Well, here's all the advice of things that you should do," and it's like just let them enjoy being pregnant, let them enjoy the journey because parenting in every single stage comes with different challenges. And it's really about, I always say, find your elephants. Like it's about finding that community and that support that's going to protect you in those vulnerable times. And you kind of like the sharing thing, like you protect me in this time, and then I'll protect you in the times that you need me as well. But it's just with social media and yeah, all the advice, the unsolicited advice and thoughts that we get, it can be so overwhelming. And so just to make it so relatable in a cartoon is just absolutely magic what you've been able to do. But how can parents utilize some of the stuff? Okay, we're watching these shows with our kids. We're, using the mad strategy, even as parents, like Tiger was doing. But how can we take that a step further to really incorporate imagination at home to help our children with like fear and anxiety and just kind of those everyday challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that when we play, like using imagination sometimes looks like play, right? And so we almost dismiss it as a technique or a strategy or a tool. And it really does depend on the age of the child. And with the littles, it's even easier, right? To think like, we're going on, like we're going on a treasure hunt. Here's your list. This is what you need to help me find. And I'm going to find this. Like we give them something to do and we give them part of the experience and we can change it in terms of our attitude about it. It's like, "Oh my god, I have another errand to run," versus, "Oh my god, I have another errand to run." Like, it
Yeah.
definitely takes a minute for us to reshape it into using imagination of we haven't used it in a long time, right? Most of us. So it's that sense of play. I think that really helps keep it top of mind because the excitement that your kid then has versus the like pulling them along, or like never we sing anything to them when they're little, right? The idea that like to get ready to, I mean, I remember leaving the house with preschoolers and how hard that was. And so the fact that you can literally sing a checklist,
Hmm.
um, them sing the checklist to try to get out, right? And that kind of thing. And then as they get older, it's the same. Like it's so key to me because we can use conversations about the Good Place, let's say, when that was on when my kids were teens to talk about philosophy. You know what I mean? Or like
Hmm.
for girls to talk about like look how the mom is freaking out because she doesn't know where Rory is, even though you know Rory's fine. So it's like, just again, using that imagination world, which is what a TV series is, or a book
Yeah.
is, or, a song is, we use it to kind of like, talk to our kids about how to do everyday things, I guess, and using their imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just kind of giggling over here because my kids are now kind of entering the preteen era, and which comes with all sorts of fun things and challenges. But when I wake them up in the morning when they were in school, I always sing to them like a good morning song. And at this point, I think they're kind of like, "Oh my gosh, mom, will you just stop it?" But then my husband, if he's ever home in the morning, he's like, "You guys get woken up like that? Like that is so unlike the alarm clock that I used to have or just getting yelled at to get out of bed." So I'm like, I know they'll enjoy it one day, but I love incorporating music whenever we can to that kind of stuff. Maybe I need to start doing that with their own checklist of things that, they need to get done. Maybe that'll be a better connection point for them. Or they'll just, roll. That's all part of life, right? And like as we were talking about like the multitasking and how it takes so many, like we need to remind ourselves to take pauses as parents, because it's so easy to just be, we just want to run from one thing to another because we're feeling so overwhelmed. We're in that fight or flight mode so much where we feel like we have like 15 tab open all the time in our brain. So we forget to do that pause because we're already thinking about the next thing. And that can obviously be a disconnect with our kids who don't have the stress of bills and work and appointments and schedules. I mean, they're just being kids. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I remember years ago, my kids went down to the bus stop and then my son forgot something. And the bus stop's just at the end of our driveway, but we have kind of a long driveway. And he came, back up to get his stuff. And I said, okay, well, the bus is going to be here. Like, make sure you hurry back down there, but be careful. And I watched him go down our steps. And then there was some snow on the car and he just, gradually walked by and was kind of playing with it. And like in my head, I was like, what part of hurry down there do you not understand? And at the same time, it gave me such a good perspective of like, wait a minute, like he doesn't have to hurry. Like the bus is going to wait for him. Like my anxiety and fears of him, rushing down there are overshadowing like his just enjoyment of the world around him. And so, yeah, I think just reminding ourselves to slow down. And you obviously, again, have done that so much throughout your work, which is amazing. And I
Not that
love
it's easy to do in real life, let's just say. I totally get it.
True. Oh my gosh. And I've talked about that so much before. I think I talked about this on the last couple episodes. There's a specific parenting style book out there. I'm not going to say what it is, but it is so butterflies and rainbows with the examples that they give. And I listened to it on audio. And again, I think there's some great stuff in there, but as you said, like everything in real life, it doesn't go as planned. It doesn't go like the Gilmore Girls where everything just worked out, for Rory in the end type of thing. But it's, it just every example that they gave, it was like, okay, if this situation happens, this is what you say to your kids. And then the kids are going to respond like that. And I'm listening to this. I'm like, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? I would get an eye roll and some kind of sass back because everything is not perfect. And I always say everyone has messy. It's just that everyone's messy looks different.
Yeah,
And so again, that can go kind of back into that whole mom comparison and guilt and shame
ugh,
cycles that we get into
totally.
as well.
When my youngest is 12, I think, maybe 13, she was upset about something, and so I kinda said the Daniel Tiger like, I said the
Yeah.
strategy, and she looked at me and she's like, "Don't Daniel Tiger me, mom." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, okay. Maybe let me think something else."
Yeah, no, that's definitely happened to me too. My daughter was upset with me one day and I started just doing some deep breathing because, our kids can co-regulate and she whipped her head around and she's like, I know what you're doing and I am not going to breathe right now. And I was like, that's your choice. I'm just going to stay, so again, everything is
Funny.
not butterflies and rainbows in parenting at all. And that's why I always say we need to stock our parent toolboxes with so many different strategies because not only for the different stages that our kids go into, but for our different individual kids as well. If you have more than one, like your kids are so different and you're going to need different tools and strategies for them, even if you want the same type of results. So Um, Angela, I would love to kind of talk a little bit more because I love how you're really focusing on like the emotional development of children as well. So, can you give our parents maybe some pointers or tips that they can learn from your shows on how to help with that resilience or calming down or getting rid of fear when their children are kind of at that emotional heightened state?
Yeah, it's so hard. It's everything that we've been talking about in terms of getting caught up in that sense and that feeling with our kids. I think that, if I stayed with the idea of using media or books to help us counter that, like my brother used to watch a show that was animated but was about relationships because he said it was easier to watch. So sometimes using that go between kind of helps with the fears, right? So you have a story of a character who's going through it versus, hey, I know that you're having a problem sleeping because I'm not sleeping because you're not sleeping. Here's a story. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
using that as a way in, so it's a little less like defensive. I think really, really helps. And I also think depending on the age of the child, right? It's like leaning in to the fear and talking about it. What Fred Rogers would say, what's mentionable is manageable is actually really important. Like I hear from parents, well, what if I say it and it makes it real? And I'm like, no, no, no. What is real is what they're going through. So like if you say it, it actually helps them feel that level of agency around it, right? Like I'm not like let's talk about the why of it. And it doesn't help overnight. It doesn't help right away. It's as you said earlier, like these are the little things that we plant those seeds so that as they get older, they're able to solve those problems on their own. And we're giving that emotional resilience in that sense of like it takes a minute or you're going to fall down and then you're going to get up again, like that kind of resilient feeling I think is really important. It's really hard for us to see our kids fall or fail. Totally as a parent, I'm right there, but it is one of those things that they grow from. And again, as an old, like I almost want to pair, you remember in school where you'd have like a mentor who was older and with the younger child, it's like I want to pair somebody with kids that are my kids age 25 and 22 with the preschoolers, or like people who are just starting it because it's so hard to realize that what you're planting does grow into this adult seed.
Yeah.
It's hard to see it, because the days, what is it? The days are long and the years are short.
Yes. Yes, especially in the toddler years, for sure. But again, in the preteen years, they're just as interesting as well. I'll say that.
Yes, and I'm sorry, but meltdowns when they're almost 6 feet tall look very, very different, but they
Yeah.
still have them.
Yes, exactly, exactly, and it's just about different stuff now, right, too? Like,
Yeah,
before it was,
exactly.
like, a blue cup because they wanted the green cup, and now it's a whole different set of issues and fears and anxieties, and my kids are going into middle school, and, it's interesting to hear them, but again, allowing them to have that space to talk is so important, and I think I've read in some parenting books as well, too, like, even if, I think the example in the book by, can't remember the author, the Whole Brain Child, though. He talks about like if a child gets into a car accident, for example, like as parents, we want to shield them and be like, oh, everything is okay. You don't have to worry about it. It's fine. It's not going to happen again, type of thing. But the way that they need to process it might be to be talking about that because it is so real for them, obviously, and fearful that we need to allow them the space to talk about it so that it helps them kind of process and move on from the event too. And sometimes as parents, we just think like, oh no, we don't want to talk about it anymore. Like that was a bad experience and I don't want you to think about it. And it can actually be doing some more damage. And you're right, like as parents, we don't want to see our kids fail. We want to see them happy and thriving and living this amazing life. And I've talked about this many times on the podcast too over the years that I remember going to a service at church and he was talking about lawnmower parents and how when we mow out all of the obstacles for our kids, we're doing such a disservice because they're not building that resilience muscle up. And he was relating it back to a study or an article about how college students were having their parents call their professors about their grades. And it's like, if we when the children are at home with us, that's the safe landing. That's the pillow that they can fall on when something bad happens, so that we can teach them these skills and these tactics and these coping things that they can get through these hard times. Because the truth is we are not always going to be there for them, whether it's a rejection from a job, a bad grade in college, rejection from a romantic partner. Like, they're going to need to build up these skills. We cannot mow out all of them. Otherwise, again, we're not building up that resilience.
Right,
So,
it's that sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go, go.
I was like, "I could talk to you all day about everything." It's like the boundary, right? Like, we give them the tiny, small boundary when they're babies, right? Like, if we need to do something, they need it to be in a safe space, and then that boundary just gets bigger and bigger and bigger so that they can go out and do what they need to do. I read about the snowplow parent, which is very similar, right? It's the same idea, but that college kids were leaving because there was sauce on their pasta. Parents would call up and be like, "My kid does not like sauce, don't put sauce." So they never had to deal with saying it on their own. And you're like, oh my gosh, like we're thinking we're doing the right thing, protecting. And then when you see it in the real life, how that manifests itself, you're like, okay, like this is why podcasts like yours are so good, because we can learn from those case studies and those stories and be like, okay, I need to step back a little bit, or oh my gosh, like they need to be able to call on the phone to make their own appointments, things like that.
I'm going to embarrassingly admit I was totally the 18-year-old in college, like, "Mom, will you call and make my dentist appointment?" And um, again, I've shared this story. I remember my mom, she got really upset with me one day because my kids told her that they had to come down in the laundry room and grab something from the dryer. And she was like, "I never made you go down and grab stuff from the dryer." And I was like, "Maybe you should have." Like, that was an important skill when I was 18 and didn't know how to do laundry in college. So I try to do that kind of stuff with my children as well. I was actually just at the store with my daughter the other day, and she was looking for something, and she's like, "Well, I don't see him." I'm like, "You're gonna have to go ask someone." She's like, "Well, can you go ask?" I said, "No, like, you can do it. I'm standing right here, and you can go up and say, 'Excuse me,' and ask where it is," and again, it's just those like little tidbits that we can start kind of pushing them so that they understand the importance of engagement and communication and making a phone call. And I think it's so funny too. I don't know if you went through this with your kids, but like, just being able to kind of even like coach your kids on a call, because like they'll call grandma and grandpa and then they won't say anything. And I'll kind of be in the background, like, okay, ask what they're doing, ask how their day was, ask them what they're doing tomorrow. And so it's just those skills that we have to help them develop. But kind of going back to all of your shows too, what are some things that the children of the ages of the Blues Clues and the Daniels Tiger, like, what are some ways that you're helping them learn the importance of resilience and some of those skills in there?
Yeah, the resilience is that getting it wrong and getting it right again, right? Like that 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. It's like, how do we scaffold? So like the first time they're on the phone, you're helping them with the script, and then you're just reminding them so that they can scaffold with that script. Um, I would say the new show that and book series that I'm doing has those critical thinking skills in there, because that's the second piece of resilience. It's like the idea that what the subset of things that I have. So Penelope has this purse of preposterous things. And if something doesn't work, do I try another one? Like if it seems ridiculous, I just want to like put it down and go away. But you need to know that all problems can be solved. And if it doesn't solve the first time, let's think about another way creatively that we can use the things that we have to solve it, right? Like how can we keep doing that? How can we keep doing that? So that level of repetition that I do in a lot of my shows, I use it in different ways, but similar story, right? Like still
Yeah.
using things, still thinking critically about stuff. I feel like today we need that resilience, and we need that more than ever. And we don't know in this age of like AI and everything that's going on, what kids are really going to need to know at 20.
Yeah.
But like they're preschool now. It's like, so, but we know they're going to need to think critically, right? We know that they're going to need to look at evidence and decide for themselves what they believe about something. And so I think that's really, really important right now, and finding different ways to do that at home, with the media, with, books that you're reading. Like all of that, I think is really important. And then that's how they develop their voice as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, such good points. And I just keep thinking, like, as you're talking about all these things that you incorporate into the shows to help like the children with the resilience and like the critical thinking and the new stuff that you're developing, I think again that's so important for our parents to pay attention to because again, whether it's a snowblower parent or a lawnmower parent or a helicopter parent, we are so quick to jump in and try fix the problem for our children. And that can really kind of backfire on us sometimes because it's not only that we're not giving them and developing those problem solving skills, those critical thinking skills, but sometimes our kids just want us to hold the space for them. So that's a technique that I teach parents. It's the help versus herd, like actually asking your kids, do you want help with this? Or do you just want me to listen? Can make a huge difference in your connection with them. And if they say, I do want help with this, then you work through with, well, what have you already tried? What are some different things you could think of? What from that purse could you pull out? Because if we just try fix it, they might think like, oh, mom just thinks this is so easy and she doesn't understand and she doesn't, she thinks that I'm dumb or I can't figure this out on my own. So, again, I think parents can take just as much away from the information in the television shows that you're creating for children as the children can. But Angela, what are some new stuff? Let's talk a little bit more before we end here about where should parents be looking for your new stuff and what are you working on now?
Yes, thank you for asking. I have a new series on YouTube Kids, a new book series, and a new TV media series called Princess Penelope's Purse of Preposterous Things. It is on YouTube, Princess Penelope Official. So please subscribe and or watch and see what you think. If you like it, please subscribe. But it's all about critical thinking skills. It's a little kitten who, because of her kindness, she is just this doesn't realize how small she is, and all she wants to do is help her friends and figure out how to fix problems. And because of that, Mother Nature has given her a purse and has transformed her into Princess Kitten of Kindness. But of course, inside are these preposterous, silly things. So she doesn't realize that any of these things could solve a problem. And so the book series also really takes that cuddle media to a whole nother level, right? Because we're inside the illustrations with our kids and able to ask them, what do you think is going to happen next? Where is it going? How could marshmallows help a fire breathing dragon? I don't understand, and actually in the series, I start out reading the book because of that same sense of like realizing with parents that when you stop to ask, what do you think is going to happen next? It's a huge muscle that you're activating there. And really that excitement of what is as that agency of like, I'm going to choose to watch more of this. So yeah, so those are the two. You can find the books everywhere that books are sold. And their first two books are out now, and the next two books come out in November.
That is amazing. Well, congratulations on that. You seriously, I could talk to you forever because your brain is just amazing and the creativeness that you bring in to the shows and to the books that you're creating, now the YouTube videos and channels is just absolutely amazing. And I hopefully that, our parents got a little bit more insight of how it's not just putting a cartoon on for their kids, but it's really helping their development as well. So I am going to have your information in the show notes here. So we'll have your social handles. I'll get a link to that show on YouTube so that you can easily click on that, listeners. But Angela, is there anything else that you'd like to leave my listeners with before we wrap up here?
Well, I'm so curious about what your listeners think about YouTube because I need to say the reason I went there was because of how many kids are on YouTube. Like, I can't even believe it. And I just want to elevate that educational content that's there so that there is more choice. And it is happening on YouTube Kids. There's more and more choice of higher quality media. So I am just curious about what everyone's dealing with regard to that and how I can help.
I love that. So, listeners, make sure you go to the show notes, get connected with Angela, give her some feedback because that's how we do things, right? We're a community, we can support each other, and we can really come together to get our questions answered versus just feeling frustrated or confused. Really expand that knowledge base. So, Angela, thank you so much for being with me today and sharing so much of this information with my listeners. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. And of course, stick around for the Essential Minute coming up next, and we will see you next time on Mom Essentials. Hey, thanks for sticking around for this Essential Minute. Today's whole conversation with Angela kept circling back to one thing: helping our kids and honestly ourselves find a little bit more steadiness when the big feelings hit. So, the oil I want to put in your toolbox this week is doTERRA's Steady Blend. This is the grounding blend from the kids collection. And honestly, one of the things that I absolutely love is because it comes in a pre-diluted roll-on bottle. So it is made to go right on their skin with no mixing, no measuring, no extra work from you. It smells warm and soft and the kind of scent that feels like a deep breath. A few easy ways to use it: roll it onto the wrist before a moment you might be thinking is a lot, like a new place or a busy morning. Try it on the back of the neck or the bottom of the feet as a part of your wind down before bed. And keep one in your bag or by the door so you know exactly where it is whenever your little needs a anchor. Now, you can even make it their job. Let them roll it on themselves and take one slow, deep breath in when you decide to do the cuddle watching, so the routine becomes something that they can reach for on their own. This is really the heart of what Angela talked about in this episode: the pause, the breath, the calm, and the model when we can hand it off to them. So if you're interested in adding this into your parenting toolbox, head to the show notes or the caption and learn more. Happy oiling! Thanks for listening to this episode of Mom Essentials. If you're looking for simple ways to bring more communication, connection, and calm into your home, head to theparenttoolbox.info and check out the Calm Family Planner. And as a special thanks for being a listener, you can take $5 off with the code ESSENTIALS. That's code ESSENTIALS. Want more tips in between episodes? Follow us on Instagram at The Parent Toolbox. See you next time.